I'm going to go second plus 712. It's going to say RAM cleared, and let's get started. So I'm going to right now press pause, and I'm going to plug in this polynomial equation. I'll be right back with you. Please do the same at home. So I've entered in this polynomial equation. Now it says to adjust the X viewing window and sketch. So I'm going to go up to Windows, and we're going to adjust it according to the following values: -10, +20, and 1, and I'm going to graph. And we can see just one line coming in here, and they just want us to do a rough sketch. So if I use a different color that allows it to stand out, it's just coming straight down here. That's all we see at this point. Now it says use the zoom fit feature to allow the calculator to automatically adjust the Y viewing window, and we're going to sketch it back into this position. So where do I find the zoom fit? We're going to go up to zoom, and then the zoom fit is all the way down to 0. Here is zoom fit. So again, I hit zoom and then I hit 0. And this is what I'll sketch, exactly what I see. So it comes here and back over again. What is the relative maximum point? So I want to know, what is this point? Second trace. We're going to go down to maximum. I want to go slightly to the left of this, so somewhere over here. And I'm going to use, oops, so sorry here. I'm going to use the left key here and just hold down this arrow so I get to the left of this relative maximum. Then I'm going to use the right arrow key to go somewhere to the right, and then it says guess. I'm going to go to the very top and press guess. And this is what I'm going to want to write down. So in this position, I'm writing down -2.948. That's rounding to the nearest thousandths. Okay, over here, the Y value at the relative maximum is 3025.078 if we round it. All right, let's find the relative minimum. So I want to know, what is this point? Second trace. Now I'm going to go to minimum. Again, I'm using that arrow, holding it all the way down. I want to go somewhere to the left of this low point, which is around here, pressing enter. And now somewhere to the right of that low relative minimum. And now I'm going to guess by going back to it, and I'm going to round to the nearest thousand. So this is 16.281. This is -530.26263. Let's move on now. I'm going to clear the calculator. Again, second plus 712. It's going to say RAM cleared. I'm going to press pause, and I'm going to type this in. So I've typed it in, and now it is time to graph it. Let's read through this here. It says, all right, so right now it is in the standard window mode. So if I go up to Windows, you can see my X's, the minimum is the max. Both X and Y are at -10 and +10, and we want to graph this. So this is just a rough sketch. It's looking something like this, right? Sorry, that's pretty ugly. Now we want to calculate these exact values. It gives us an X value, and we want to know what's the corresponding Y value for this function. So to do that, you're going to hit the second key and hit trace. Value is going to be number 1. I'm typing in -1. The negative sign is below the 3, so -1 matches up with 9. Second trace, value 2 matches up with 2.25. Let's go to 8. Second trace value, and 8 matches up with 2.25 again. Find the relative minimum point. So I want to know, what is this minimum value? Second trace, going all the way down to minimum. I want to go slightly to the left and slightly to the right of this minimum value. Here slightly to the left, using the arrows slightly to the right, and now going to where approximately the low point is, and it's at 50 is going to be the relative minimum value. Okay, complete the following table. So I want to know what would be these values. What's a quick way to do it? I want to know what Y value corresponds to an X value of 250 for this function. Second trace value, and now notice when I plug in 250, it's not going to work. Watch. It doesn't work. Well, what is the reason for that? It tells us here that we have an invalid dimension. So I need to go to Windows, and right now it can only calculate X values between -10 up to +10. So I need to go up to at least 350. So I'm going to change this to 350, and now I'll have no problem doing that. Second trace, try it again, second trace value, plugging in 250, we get an answer here. I'm going to round here, but this is 15006.25. Let's do 300. Second trace, let's find 300, and we're at 21,7 56.25. Second trace value, let's find 350. We're at 29,756.25. Let's move on now to number. The very first thing I'm going to do is reset the calculator. Second plus 712. Now I'm going to press pause. I'm going to go up here. I'm going to press pause, and I'm going to type this in. By the way, it's possible you've never typed in an exponential function, so let's actually do this together. 2 is the base. Now, in order to raise it up to a value of x, I'm going to hit the caret key. The caret key here, if I move this down so everybody can see, is going to be right here. It's going to be right above the division sign. Raise it up to the x value. I'm going to use the arrow to bring it back down to the same level as the base, which is a value of 2 plus 5. Okay, let's graph it. And then this is just going to be a rough sketch. It's looking something like this. Great. Let's calculate the values. Now, just real quick, notice how -4, -2, and 2 are all within the range of x values of -10 to +10. These are x values. It's within the range, so I should not have any problem finding out what is the corresponding y values if they exist. Second trace value, let's go -4. -4 is 5.0625. Second trace value, -2 corresponds to 5.25. And second trace, let's find 2, and 2 corresponds to a value of 9. All right, simple enough. Let's move on now, and let's find the y-intercept. Now, all y-intercepts will always have an x value of 0. So second trace value, we want an x value of 0. All y-intercepts in every function have an x value of 0. Here we can see we have a y-intercept at 6, written as an ordered pair, 0, 6. Now, before I complete this table, notice these x values, but when I hit window, -80, -90, -100 are not within this range. So I need to go down as low as -100. And once I adjust this range to incorporate the x values that I'm trying to find a corresponding y value to, we won't have any problem with this. Here we go. Second trace value, -100, no problem. 5. Second trace value, -90, 5. Second trace value, -80, and 5 again. All right. And we'll talk about that later on, where in fact, it's not actually exactly 5. We'll learn later on how there's actually an imaginary line here that's called an asymptote, and it gets closer and closer and closer and closer and closer and closer to this line, which happens to be 5. It just never touches it, but it's so close that the calculator rounds to 5, and that's the reason why. Let's move on now to number 7. I'm going to start number 7 by going ahead, second plus 712, and when I plug this in, so I have recalculated by clearing the RAM. When I plug this in, I'm definitely going to put parentheses around any fraction. So I have 1/3 x. Now how do I raise it to the 4th? Raise to the 4th, bring it back down, plus 2/5 x to the 3rd, okay, bring it back down, minus 3x squared plus 4. All right, so I've plugged it all in. I'm going to graph it here. Now this is just a rough graph, okay? So I'm going to just do a real quick rough graph of what this looks like. Comes up here and back down, something like that. Now we're going to change the window by coming up, and I'm going to change it to -5, and the x maximum is going to be, oops, so sorry, let's go back there. And -5, the x maximum is 3, scale is 1. Then we have -10, +5, and 1. Let's graph it. It's going to look slightly different since I've changed the window in which I am looking at it. And it's looking like this. It's just, right, looking something like that. So we want to figure out the maximum, the relative maximum. So here's my maximum. How do I do that? Second trace. Let's go down to maximum. Somewhere to the left, enter. Somewhere to the right, enter. And back up to the very high point. All right. So how do I plug this in, right? Notice here, this is a great opportunity to talk. I'm going to write this down, -8.768 e to the -7. This is in scientific notation. So this is the same as -8 0.768 times 10 to the negative 7. That means take this decimal place and move it 7 times to the left because it is negative. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? All those open places are going to be filled with zeros. So 0.000008768, really, that's close enough to 0. So we can say that this would be at 0 and 4. 0 and 4. Now let's figure out what these minimums are, doing the exact same concept, but instead of going to maximum, we're at minimum. I'm going to go somewhere to the left of this lowest point. Anywhere to the left, press enter. Anywhere to the right of the lowest point, come back to it, right there. And I have a minimum of, okay, negative 2.619. I'm going to round to the nearest thousandths, and negative 8.080. Let's figure out the next relative minimum. So I'm going to come right over here. It appears like it's an x-intercept. We'll find out. Enter, somewhere to the left, and it gives you the directions, somewhere to the right. Now on that point, and we have a minimum of 1.719 and 0.078. All right, let's go down to our final question. For 8, I definitely want to start again by resetting my calculator. And after I reset it, when I plug this in, I definitely want to put parentheses if this is going to reflect this function properly. I want to put parentheses on the numerator and parentheses on the denominator. So parenthesis x plus 2 divided by parenthesis x minus 3. It doesn't tell me to adjust the window. I've already, remember, did the second plus 712, so I reset the x and the y max and mins. Let's graph it. Let's see what this looks like. And we're going to learn more about this later on. This is called a rational function. We'll learn all about it later on, but it looks something like that. Okay, so notice the x values 2, 3, and 4 are within the range here for the x's. So I can go second trace value, and I can plug in 2 to get negative 4, second trace value 3 to, oh, now notice there is nothing there. There's nothing that exists. I'm going to put a line there. There's no number. We'll learn later why that is. That means no part of this function has a y value that corresponds to 3. It's a vertical asymptote we'll learn about later on. Second trace value, we'll go to 4. 4 corresponds to 6. How do we find the y-intercept? Second trace value. Remember, all y-intercepts have an x value of 0. So I have 0 and negative 0.667. If I'm going to round it, negative 2/3 would be exact. Now, how do I figure out the x-intercept? It appears there's an x-intercept right here. We call those zeros if you've forgotten that from freshman year. So just like I find relative maximums and relative minimums, I'm going to go second trace 0. And I want to go left of this point, left of that x-intercept, anywhere to the left. So I want anywhere above the x-axis. Now use that arrow and go anywhere below the x-axis. And now we're going to go back to where I believe it crosses, and we'll press enter, and here we go. We have a negative 2, 0.